What is up, friends, neighbors, everyone else? This is Daily Vitamin D, number 95. Today, I'm going to answer the question, is Russia evil? But before I do, I want you to think about that. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Are they evil? If you're from Russia, let me know. I want to hear all about your thoughts on everything that's going on in Ukraine. But before I begin, the very first thing that I want to tell you, the one thing that I want to talk about the most is never make the mistake of judging a people by the actions of their government. Okay? You have to separate the two. Even in an ideal world, in an ideal situation, the government would represent the needs and the wants and the values of the people. But we know that that just doesn't happen. So, because the world is not ideal, you have to be realistic and you have to be reasonable. So being reasonable means we have to say this government is probably not acting in line with the values of the people. And there's been there's Russian protests right now going on about this thing in the Ukraine. A lot of people they don't care. Most people don't think about other people. Most people are concerned with what's going on in their life. They just want to live their life. They want to be left alone. They want to make enough money to not suffer. They want to have fun. They want to hang out with friends and family and do the things that they enjoy. That's how it is everywhere, in every culture. I'm telling you, people just want to live their life and be left. They don't want to be fucked with, okay? So, that brings me to my second point. We have more in common with more people in the world than we think. This whole thing, like, people play up our differences so they can get reaction. They can get an emotional response. The media does this. Politicians do this. Churches do this. We have this desire to create us versus them dynamics. And we do that through playing up our differences. And in playing up our differences, it's easier to get people to hate on others, right? And that's just not necessary because we actually do have a lot more in common than we think. So think of the people, not just in Russia, but everywhere in the world. Those ordinary people are just like you and me. Okay? That's my third point. They're ordinary people, man. But I do want to spend some time talking about this. We label things as evil, okay, to justify hatred. When we label things as evil, it makes it easier for us to justify treating those people like shit. Or because if it wasn't evil, then our behavior towards them would be unjustified, right? Think about that. If the way that you treat somebody else is only acceptable if that person is evil, if they're not actually evil, everything falls apart. And you're the asshole. So what do? We exaggerate the evilness of other people. We exaggerate the transgression, the level of transgression that they've committed to evil status so that we can justify treating them like shit. All right? And the last thing I want to talk about, because I'm going to run out of time here, to be honest with you, my phone is acting up. But don't commit emotional terrorism. And by that, what I mean is, think about terrorists, right? Terrorists have a problem. Let's just use a terrorist against the United States government. They have a problem with the U.S. government for whatever reason, right? Maybe they hate their foreign policy. Maybe they hate other shit. Maybe they hate that they're meddling. Like a lot of homegrown terrorists just want to be left alone. They don't want their rights trampled on, blah, blah, blah. So what do? The difference between terrorism and normal military actions, like a military will attack military targets, for example. Terrorism attacks civilian targets and innocent things like this. So, in doing so, they're attacking people who aren't even part of the problem, right? They're not the source of the problem. It's like vandalizing your neighbor's business to make a political statement when your neighbor had nothing to do with anything. Okay. That is what I mean by emotional terrorism, though. Emotional terrorism is the same idea. When you have a problem with some system or some group of people or some thing, and you take out your anger or your resentment or your contempt on innocent people who don't deserve it. Okay? This ties right back into the very first point that I made. Judging a people based on the actions of their government. So, be careful not to create or not to commit emotional terrorism. Okay? There's no reason to be a dick to people. There's no reason to exaggerate the evilness of people. It doesn't matter. You're just trying to justify being a dick. How about we just stop being dicks to each other? How about we stop doing that? And the last thing I want to say along these lines is, don't create evil where it doesn't exist, okay? Don't exaggerate the evilness of somebody. Don't just say they're evil so that you can shit on them. They're not. Look, the world is not as evil as you think it is. We have a need to make our enemies out to be evil. But that's the first step towards atrocity, isn't it? Dehumanizing everyone else and justifying our own actions. That's the problem. Everyone justifies their injustice. And that's not what I want you guys to do. So, let me know what you think about Russia in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys tomorrow. May your emblem endure. And quit whining.